Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where executive coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, leaders. It's Alicia Cowan, and welcome to episode number 22 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. The past few weeks have been quite busy around the Cowan house, as we normally do. I was in Dallas for the Life Coach School Mastermind, which is the coach school that I received my certification from. So it was lovely to connect and get inspired from a lot of great content that they had at the conference, as well as connect with my coach, Cara. And so I haven't seen her in person for a while. We've been together coaching for many years, and she's so lovely. So it was great to see her in person. And I had a friend come up from Austin to visit me in Dallas while I was there. And so had a great meal together and just had a really great time connecting with people in person in Dallas. And whirlwind flight back, came and celebrated my husband's birthday on September 11th. We also had our daughter that lives in Ohio fly in to visit for a week. And she is also in the process of moving down here to Tampa. So we just had a lot going on. And so it's been really fun and busy in the past few weeks here. And of course, I owe you a house update. So for all of you that listen regularly, you know, we're building a house here in Wesley Chapel. And this week we had the stucco go on the house and appliances were put in. So it's been really fun as things have been moving really quickly in the past few weeks. So busy, busy, busy. So I want to talk about this topic of embracing negative feelings this week. Super light and fun, right? But I'll say this, it came up as a part of the theme for the mastermind that I was at. We were talking through feeling harder was the theme and the topic. And so we were talking through the concept of feeling feelings. And I want to relate this, of course, as I do, back to the leadership environment and coaching and working through what I've heard with you as clients and what's been coming up and how I can relate, these concepts and these tools back to leading and you as senior leaders and how you're leading your teams. So I'll say this, in managing yourself and what I call emotional management of oneself is super important in the workplace. As we mature as leaders and as we get better and the better we can lead ourselves and understand how our brains work and how our feelings drive all of our actions, it's so important that if we can understand and emotionally manage ourselves well, naturally, of course, we're going to be better leaders. So I'm going to give you a story that I'll weave through this podcast as an example. I had a client that I was working with during a session and came and presented an issue as a decision-making issue. She was challenged with a decision that she had to make, and it was a decision between something in her professional life and career and a personal choice and something with her family. So a decision point had to be made. And she presented this topic as, this challenge that she was having between this choice of two things, professional or family life. And she was struggling with making the decision and wanted help talking through it. But as we talked through it, it was truly her trying to escape feeling guilty for choosing one of these things and feeling guilty about the choice that she made. And she wanted to so badly escape the guilt and not feeling guilty anymore. And it was through our coaching conversation that we discovered this. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it towards the end, but I want to first kind of give you some of the concepts around the concept of feeling negative feelings and embracing negative feelings. So at times I think we label negative feelings and we think that if we're feeling a negative feeling, and again, I'm just going to use this phrase, although I truly believe it's feelings and I think we label them. I'm just going to use it as such. Stereotypically we see like fear, anxiety, guilt, anger, frustration. We label them and we label them as negative, right? So at times when we're in the workplace and as a leader, we feel like something's going terribly wrong if we're feeling these feelings. And at times we just have this eagerness to move out of it. We want to move through it, out of it, stuff it, right? We just don't necessarily listen to like what is actually going on and what these feelings, why they're coming up and what they're trying to tell us. So I want to bullet out a couple things here. Number one, we have this expectation as humans that we're supposed to be happy all the time. And that's just BS. We really set ourselves up for disappointment and judgment of ourselves when we think we're just supposed to be happy all the time. I know you're saying like, no, I get it. I don't believe that, right? But look at how we're set up as society. It's as simple as like why social media causes depression, right? When we look at it, we start to feel feelings of dissatisfaction because we look at it and we're like, everybody seems to be happy. We're not happy. We don't look as happy as this, right? We do this comparison and then we start to tell ourselves that something has gone wrong with us and we want to fix it. We want to move on from it. And we're not listening to what message is truly being sent. I'll use another example. I have 5 children, so I can relate to this. But if you've ever seen a parent parenting their kid and they've got a kid that is crying and upset and just kind of generally just losing their shit in public, right? We've seen it, we've observed it, and you see that parent. And, sometimes parents are trying to soothe the child and make them, right, give them what they need. Usually it's sleep or food. Sometimes you don't know what's going on, but typically, right, you're trying to, help them soothe through it. Other times you see parents that are like also losing their shit and having strong emotions, telling their kid to stop crying, to be quiet, to be good, and trying to just tell them, like almost to the kid, like you're having these strong emotions and something is going terribly wrong and you need to stop, right? So equate it to that. If we're telling ourselves that if we're upset and we're telling ourselves something's wrong with us if we're upset and that we should just be good and stop crying and be quiet, if we're again parenting our own selves in that way and telling ourselves that, it's BS. It's the wrong expectation to set. And again, I'm just using this as an example, but I think it illustrates when we at times are feeling negative emotion, it's that similarity between telling ourselves like something has gone wrong here and you shouldn't be feeling the way that you're feeling. So when we start to embrace this concept of life being 50-50, and what I mean by that is that 50% of the time life is positive, 50% of the time life is negative, and how we experience it and how we move through it, how we think about it is perfectly fine. And nothing's gone wrong. And nothing's gone wrong with us if we're upset. Nothing's going wrong with us if we're sad. Nothing is wrong with us if we're angry. Right. And when we stop labeling it and stop judging it, then we can start to truly understand and listen and just allowing ourselves to feel that way. Okay. Another way that this shows up and what I see in the workplace is when we're in these strong emotions and we're feeling these strong feelings, it feels overwhelming. And at times we want to take action to try to change the situation. So there's a couple of different tactics. We try to escape it. So we just try to again, ignore it, disregard it, discredit it. We try to stuff it down. So just push it down. We will suppress it and just ignore it. Sometimes people try to buffer it. And what I mean by that is using actions to distract us from it. So if we do things and we take action to distract ourselves from our feelings, sometimes it can just be staying busy. A lot of times I see this in the workplace is right. We just we're so busy that we don't have time for this. At times it can be overuse of something, overeating, over drinking, perhaps taking drugs. And we try to buffer away the feeling. And we try to just numb ourselves. We just don't want to feel these feelings. So we'll overuse something to try to give another dopamine hit to avoid feeling discomfort and uncomfortable feelings. And so one of the greatest skills, again, professionally we can develop is the ability to sit with emotion. And brings me to a third topic. Not necessarily does it mean that you have to act on it. Okay. So again, what I mean by that is we don't have to necessarily act on these emotions. Acting on the emotion is different than feeling the feeling and feeling the emotion. So, for example, in the workplace, if we're feeling angry, we don't need to act out and yell at our coworkers or throw a chair across the conference room or punch one of our coworkers in the face just because we're feeling angry. That's not feeling our emotions. That's acting out on our emotions. If we're sad, we don't necessarily bust out into tears and cry if we're not in a setting where it feels appropriate for us, right? But we can just sit and feel how we're feeling, maybe anger, maybe it is frustration, maybe it's sadness, without trying to act on it or move on or stuff it or suppress it. Okay. And how we can do that is just by feeling how it feels and acknowledging it. So it can be simple as saying to yourself, like, I'm feeling sad and it feels a little heavy. I'm feeling angry and I feel a little frustrated. And we can still take a breath. We can take a moment for ourselves without acting out on it. And then we can still go about our day, do the things that we need to do. We can carry it with us. We can know that it's there without acting out on it. And then when there's a time where we can truly focus on it, and maybe if we need to process it further or we need to look at it and address it further, we can do it at a time where it feels appropriate, professional, and still in a way that feels true to us. Okay. So again, I know it's easier said than done. And definitely this is the type of work that I do and coach people through it. But I'll talk more about the example that I had this week to help maybe better illustrate this. So as I mentioned before, I had this client that presented like with this like decision and presented it as like a decision making challenge. And so again, it was a tough decision that she had between a personal family obligation and a professional obligation. And she chose that professional obligation. And as we coached through it, we were talking through it, she chose that obligation solely because she wanted to. She didn't have pressure from her boss to make that decision. She didn't have pressure from her company or team. She just purely chose the work because she wanted to. And as we looked at it, the personal family option, she didn't neglect anybody. Nothing, no harm was done. And no pressure was done, or no harm would have been done if she had chose as she did, the work obligation. So neither decision was a bad decision. And the thing that came out of it though, was that she felt an extreme amount of guilt around it. And she wanted to move through it. And that's why I say, like, it's really important to listen to what's going on and coach through these type of things, because she had this tremendous amount of guilt and she truly didn't want to feel this way. She came and she's like, how do I not feel this way again? How do I make this stop? So again, it wasn't a decision-making issue at all. It was her trying to not feel the way that she was feeling. She chose that professional obligation, but she didn't want to carry the weight of it. She wanted to move on and move through it and never have to face it again. And what we really worked through was, it was okay. Like, there wasn't a bad decision in the situation. No one was let down either way. And if she's faced with that again, it's okay. It may come up for her again, right? It may come up that that decision might trigger some feelings of guilt. But now that she knows that, she can truly just feel that feeling and either carry it with her or decide, like, let it pass and decide she can still do what she wants to do, knowing that there's no wrong answer. And the worst thing that's going to happen is she might have to process through the feelings that she's feeling. And so I wanted to use this example, and I wanted to talk to you about feelings and negative emotions and feelings, because as a leader of yourself, of a team, and of an organization, emotional management and a management of yourself in the workplace is absolutely, truly one of the most important pieces of work that you can do. Because if you can understand what's going on for you, and then in turn understand how to better lead your team and how to better lead within the organization, the ripple effects and the compounding effects of that are immense. Because at times, if we are not examining what is going on for us, and we continue to, like I said, just try to move through that emotion or stuff it or buffer it or whatever, I've seen a result of it, and it comes out in a way that we do not want it to. And it's much easier, even though it feels tougher in the moment, it's much easier to examine and to look at your emotional life and understand truly what's going on for you, even though it feels uncomfortable in the moment. But it's so much more beneficial to you to help understand it and to help manage your mind and your emotional management to become a better leader. So that's it, my friends. That's what I have for you. This is definitely a topic that I'm super passionate about, and it's not always one that's talked about in leadership books, and it's not always given in the most, right? The most top 10 leadership tactics to take. But I will say, again, emotional management of your mind and leading yourself well is so important. So I wanted to share that example with you. And if you're having strong emotional feelings in the workplace, or if you have some other challenge that you would love to talk about, I'm here for you. You can reach out to me on my website. It's aliciacowancoaching.com. It's spelled ELISIAKEOWN coaching.com. You can get in touch with me there and connect directly to my calendar, book a call with me, and we can start to work through your challenges right away and see if a long-term coaching engagement would be right for you. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you as always. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.